Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the starship New Horizon and looked out at the strange world below. The planet was beautiful. Purple mountains rose from silver plains and 3 moons hung in the pink sky. This was his most important mission yet. Earth needed friends among the stars, and the Zephyrians might be those friends. "Captain, we're getting their signal," said Lisa Park from her station. She was the best at talking to aliens that Earth had. "They want us to land at their main city." Jake nodded. "Take us down, Ben." Sergeant Ben Crawford was flying the ship today. He was good at his job and never made mistakes. The ship moved smoothly through the alien sky toward the crystal city below. Jake had studied everything about the Zephyrians for months. They looked like living gems, tall and thin, with skin that seemed to be made of colored glass. They were smart and had built amazing cities, but no human had ever met them face to face before. "Remember the plan," Jake told his team. "We go slow. We be polite. We don't touch anything unless they say it's okay." Lieutenant Amy Foster checked her weapon for the 3rd time. She was in charge of keeping everyone safe. "Sir, what if something goes wrong?" "Nothing will go wrong," Jake said. But inside he felt worried too. First meetings with new aliens were always dangerous. The ship landed in a wide space made of white stone. Tall crystal buildings reached up all around them. Jake could see the aliens waiting. There were maybe 50 of them, all shining in the alien sunlight. One stood in front of the others. She was taller than the rest, and her crystal skin was a deep blue color. Jake knew this had to be Queen Lyra Lee. She was the ruler of this world. "Weapons on low power only," Jake told his team. "Remember, we're here to make friends." They left the ship and walked across the stone ground. The air smelled like flowers, but different from Earth flowers. It was warm, and Jake could feel sweat under his uniform. The Zephyrians stood very still as the humans came closer. Jake couldn't tell what they were thinking. Their faces didn't show feelings the way human faces did. When they were 20 feet away, Queen Lirelai raised her arms. Jake stopped and raised his hand too, trying to show he came in peace. Then the queen began to sing. The sound was like nothing Jake had ever heard. It was high and low at the same time, like wind through metal pipes, but beautiful. The other Zephyrians joined in, and the song became bigger and more complex. "It's beautiful," whispered Lisa. But something was wrong. Ryan Torres, their doctor, was checking his scanner. His face went white. "Captain, the scanner is showing weapon energy." Jake felt his blood turn cold. "What kind of weapon energy?" "High level. Very high level. It's coming from their singing." Amy Foster pulled out her weapon. "Sir, we need to back away now." The Zephyrian song was getting louder. More aliens were joining in. The sound seemed to shake the air itself. "Shields up," Jake shouted. Ben Crawford hit the controls on his belt. Blue energy fields appeared around each human. At the same time, Amy and her soldiers pointed their weapons at the aliens. The change was instant. The beautiful song stopped. Queen Lirelai stepped backward, and her people moved to stand around her. Their crystal skin began to glow brighter. "They're charging weapons," Ryan called out. Jake's mind raced. This was exactly what he had hoped would not happen. "Everyone stay calm." But it was too late. The Zephyrians were making new sounds now, sharp and angry. Some of them raised their arms, and Jake could see energy building in their crystal hands. "We need to get back to the ship," Amy shouted. The humans began moving backward, keeping their weapons ready. The aliens followed, but they stayed 20 feet away. "Lisa, try to talk to them," Jake said. Lisa held up her translator device and spoke into it. The machine made sounds that were supposed to be Zephyrian words, but the aliens didn't seem to understand. Queen Lirelai made a sound like breaking glass. More aliens came out of the buildings around them. Soon there were hundreds. "Run!" Jake yelled. The humans ran for their ship. The aliens followed, making their glass-breaking sounds. Energy beams shot over their heads, but the aliens seemed to be missing on purpose. They reached the ship and jumped inside. Ben started the engines right away. "Get us out of here," Jake ordered. But as the ship tried to lift off, something hit them. Not weapons, but some kind of force that made the ship shake and fall back down. "They've got some kind of gravity beam on us," Ben said. "I can't get us up." Jake looked out the window. Queen Lirelai stood in front of the alien crowd. She was looking right at him, and even though he couldn't read alien faces, he thought she looked sad. "Why aren't they attacking?" Amy asked. "They could destroy us if they wanted to." That was a good question. The aliens had them trapped, but they weren't trying to hurt them. They just stood there watching. "I don't understand," Jake said. "We came in peace. Why did they attack?" Maybe the song was some kind of test, Lisa suggested. Maybe we failed it. Jake stared out at the alien queen. Something about this felt wrong, but he didn't know what. 3 days had passed since the meeting went wrong. Jake and his team were stuck on the alien world with no way to leave. Their ship was still held down by the alien gravity beam, and they had moved to the old human embassy building for safety. The building had been built years ago when humans first found this world. It was empty then, but it had thick walls and good doors. Now it was their fortress. Any word from the New Horizon? Jake asked Lisa. Lisa shook her head. She had been trying to call their main ship for hours. Something is blocking our signals. The aliens must have some kind of jamming device. Jake walked to the window and looked out. The aliens were still there, standing in groups around the building. They had been there for 3 days, never leaving, never sleeping as far as he could tell. This is the strangest siege I've ever seen, said Amy. She was checking the locks on the doors again. They're not trying to break in. They're not shooting at us. They're just watching. That was what bothered Jake the most. The Zephyrians had enough power to destroy the building if they wanted to. But they didn't attack. They just stood there and made their strange sounds. The sounds never stopped. Day and night, the aliens sang their crystal songs. The sounds were different from the first day. Softer somehow, but they still made the humans feel strange. It's like they're trying to drive us. Crazy, said Ben. He was sitting by the door with his weapon ready. Ryan was taking care of the team members who felt sick from the alien sounds. The frequencies are affecting our inner ears, he said. That's why everyone feels dizzy and sad. But Jake didn't feel sad when he heard the sounds. He felt something else. Something he couldn't name. On the second day, Jake had noticed something odd. Queen Lyra came to watch the building herself. She didn't stay with the other aliens. She walked around the building alone, looking up at the windows. She's watching you, sir, Amy had said. Every time you go to a window, she looks right at you. Jake thought Amy was wrong at first. But now he was starting to believe her. Whenever he looked outside, the queen was there, and she was always looking at him. Why would she care about me specifically? Jake asked. Maybe you insulted her somehow, suggested Ben. Maybe pointing weapons at her was worse than we thought. But that didn't feel right either. If the queen was angry, why didn't she attack? Why did she just stand there and stare? On the third night, something new happened. The human ships in space tried to rescue Jake's team. 3 fast attack ships came down from orbit, flying toward the embassy. Jake and his team ran to the roof to signal them. But before the ships could land, the aliens acted. The Zephyrians around the building began to sing together. Their voices joined into one big sound that shook the air. The rescue ship suddenly stopped in the sky, held by invisible force. Then the aliens sang a different song. This one was louder and sharper. The rescue ships began to spin around out of control. They're going to crash, Lisa shouted, but the ships didn't crash. Instead, they were pushed gently away from the planet like leaves blown by wind. In a few minutes, they were gone. They could have destroyed those ships, Amy said, but they just sent them away. Jake stared at the aliens below. Queen Lyra was looking up at him again. Even from far away, he could see her crystal face turned toward him. It's like they want to keep us here, he said. But why? The next morning, Jake made a decision. He had to know what the aliens wanted. I'm going outside, he told his team. Sir, that's not safe, Amy said right away. Maybe not, but sitting here isn't getting us answers. Jake took off his weapons and walked to the front door. He opened it slowly and stepped outside. The aliens stopped singing. They all turned to look at him. There were hundreds of them now, maybe thousands. They formed a big circle around the building. Queen Lyra walked toward him. She stopped 10 feet away and looked at him with her crystal eyes. Jake tried to speak to her. Why are you keeping us here? What do you want? The queen tilted her head like she was trying to understand. Then she began to sing again. This song was different from all the others. It was quiet and gentle, like a mother singing to a baby. Jake felt something strange happen inside his chest. The sound made him think of being safe and warm. Other aliens joined the song, but they stayed quiet, letting the queen's voice lead. The music seemed to wrap around Jake like invisible arms. He realized that he wasn't afraid anymore. The aliens could have heard him, but they didn't. They just sang their strange, beautiful song. After a few minutes, the queen stopped singing. She looked at Jake for a long moment, then turned and walked away. The other aliens followed her, leaving Jake standing alone in front of the building. He went back inside, confused and surprised. What happened out there? Amy asked. I don't know, Jake said. But I don't think they want to hurt us. Then what do they want? Jake looked out the window again. Queen Lyra Lee was back in her watching place looking up at the building. I think, Jake said slowly, they want something from me, something I don't understand yet. That night, the alien songs were softer than ever before. They sounded almost like lullabies. And for the first time since landing on this world, Jake slept peacefully. Jake couldn't take it anymore. They had been trapped in the embassy for a week now. His team was getting sick from worry and fear. Lisa had stopped eating. Ryan was having bad dreams. Even Amy, who was always strong, looked tired and scared. We have to do something, Jake told them. We can't just sit here forever. The aliens haven't hurt us yet, Ben said. Maybe we should wait longer. Wait for what? Jake asked. For them to change their minds? For Earth to send more ships that they'll just push away? Jake had been thinking about a plan for 2 days. It was dangerous, but it might work. I'm going to put on my battle armor and break through their lines, he said. While they're chasing me, you find another way out. Amy shook her head right away. Sir, that's too dangerous. There are too many of them. The armor can handle it, Jake said. It's the best Earth has. And I'll only need to distract them for a few minutes. His battle armor was locked in a special case. It was black metal with blue lights made to protect soldiers in the worst fights. The armor made him stronger and faster, and it could stop almost any weapon. I don't like this plan, Lisa said. I don't like it either, Jake said. But I like sitting here doing nothing even less. That night, when the alien songs were quiet, Jake put on his armor. The metal felt heavy but safe around his body. The armor's computer started up, showing him maps and weapon systems. Testing, testing, he said into his helmet radio. We hear you, Amy's voice came back. Jake checked his weapons one last time. He wasn't planning to hurt anyone, but he needed the aliens to think he was dangerous. Remember the plan, he told his team. When I go out the front, you go out the back. Head for the old spaceport. Maybe you can fix one of the ships there. What about you? Ryan asked. I'll catch up, Jake said. But he wasn't sure that was true. Jake walked to the front door and took a deep breath. Then he kicked the door open and ran outside. The aliens were still there, waiting in the dark. When they saw him, they began to make their sharp, surprised sounds. Jake ran toward the biggest group of aliens, firing his weapons into the air. He wasn't trying to hit them, just scare them. The aliens moved away from him, but they didn't run. They seemed more confused than afraid. Come on, Jake shouted. Chase me. But the aliens didn't chase him. Instead, they began to sing again. This time, their song was loud and strong, like a wall of sound. Jake kept running, but the song was making him feel strange. His armor's computer started showing warning lights. Then he saw her. Queen Lyra Lee stood in the middle of the embassy courtyard. She was alone and she was looking right at him. Jake stopped running. The other aliens stopped singing. Everything became very quiet. The queen was beautiful in a way that was hard to understand. Her crystal skin glowed with soft blue light, and she was tall and graceful like a statue come to life. Stay back, Jake said, pointing his weapon at her. But the queen didn't stay back. She walked toward him slowly, her crystal feet making small ringing sounds on the stone ground. Jake's armor computer was going crazy now. It kept saying warning and unknown energy in his ear. When the queen was 5 feet away, she stopped. She looked at Jake's armor, then at his face through the helmet glass. Then she began to sing. This was not like any of the other alien songs. This was something completely new. Her voice was like music made of light, like the sound stars would make if stars could sing. The song hit Jake's armor like invisible waves. At first, nothing happened. Then the armor began to shake. What's happening? Amy's voice came through his radio, but it sounded far away. The shaking got worse. Jake could feel it in his bones. The armor's metal plates started to rattle against each other. The queen's song got louder, but not in a bad way. It was like she was singing just for him, telling him something important in a language he couldn't understand. Then Jake heard a crack. He looked down and saw a thin line running down his chest plate. As he watched, the line got bigger. Impossible, he whispered. The armor was breaking. The strongest metal Earth could make was cracking like glass. More cracks appeared. The blue lights on his armor started to flicker and go out. The computer stopped talking. The queen kept singing, and her song seemed to reach inside Jake's chest. He felt something he had never felt before. something warm and sad and beautiful all at the same time. His left arm piece fell off and hit the ground with a loud crash. Then his right arm piece. Then pieces of his leg armor. Jake wanted to run, but he couldn't move. The song held him in place, not with force, but with something else. Something that made him want to listen. His chest plate split in half and fell away. Now he was standing in just his underclothes, completely helpless. But the Queen didn't hurt him. She just kept singing her impossible song, and suddenly Jake understood. The song wasn't just noise. It was feelings made into sound. The Queen was telling him things with her voice, things that couldn't be said with words. In her song, he heard loneliness. He heard sadness. He heard hope. And he heard something else, something that made his heart beat faster. Love. The Queen was singing about love. She finished her song and stood there looking at him. Jake's broken armor lay around his feet like black flower petals. "You're not trying to hurt us," Jake said quietly. "You never were." The Queen tilted her head like she was trying to understand his words. Jake felt like an idiot. For a week he had thought they were prisoners. But maybe they weren't prisoners at all. Maybe they were something else. "You were trying to tell us something," he said, "but we couldn't understand." The Queen made a soft sound like wind through crystal chimes. Jake looked around at the other aliens. They were all watching him, but their eyes seemed kind, not angry. "I'm sorry," Jake said to the Queen. "I'm sorry we didn't understand." The Queen stepped closer to him. She raised one crystal hand and almost touched his face, but stopped just before her fingers reached his skin. In that moment, Jake felt something impossible. He felt like he had known this alien queen his whole life, like she was someone he had been looking for without knowing it. "Who are you?" he whispered. The Queen began to sing again, but this time her song was soft and gentle, like an answer to his question. Jake stood in the courtyard without his armor, feeling more confused than ever. The broken metal pieces lay around him like a puzzle he couldn't solve. Queen Lyreley watched him with her crystal eyes, and he could almost feel her thinking. "Jake!" Amy's voice came from behind him. "Are you okay?" His team had come back when they heard the noise. They all stood at the embassy door, staring at the broken armor. "I'm fine," Jake said. "Better than fine, actually." "Sir, what happened to your armor?" Ben asked. "She broke it," Jake said, looking at the Queen. "But not to hurt me. To help me understand something." Lisa walked closer, carrying her translator device. "Maybe I can figure out what she's trying to say." The Queen saw the translator and made an excited sound. She began to sing again, but this time she sang slowly and clearly, like she was trying to teach them her language. Lisa worked with the translator for an hour. Jake and the others waited, watching the Queen and her people. The aliens seemed patient and kind now, nothing like the dangerous enemies Jake had thought they were. "I'm getting something," Lisa said finally. "The language is more complex than I thought. It's not just words. It's emotions too." "What is she saying?" Jake asked. Lisa looked confused. "It's hard to explain. She's singing about watching something from far away. Something she cared about but couldn't touch." The Queen sang again, and this time her voice sounded sad. "She's singing about loneliness," Lisa said, "about wanting something she couldn't have." Amy was checking her scanner. "Sir, I'm not reading any weapons from them. I don't think they ever had weapons pointed at us." "Then what was the energy reading we got on the first day?" Jake asked. Ryan had an idea. What if it wasn't weapon energy? What if it was just energy from their bodies? Their singing creates real power. That made sense. Jake had felt the power of the Queen's song when it broke his armor. The Queen sang again, longer this time. Lisa worked hard to translate the sounds. "This is strange," Lisa said. "She's singing about Earth, about human ships and human voices." "How does she know about Earth?" "We've been sending radio signals into space for years," Ben said. "Maybe they picked them up." Lisa listened more. "She's singing about learning human words, about watching human movies and shows. She says she studied us for years." Jake felt a chill run down his back. "Years? How long have they been watching us?" The Queen seemed to understand his question. She sang a short song and Lisa translated. 5 years, Lisa said. "She's been listening to Earth signals for 5 years. That was a long time." Jake thought about all the human broadcasts that had been sent into space. Movies, news shows, music, even military communications. What else is she saying? Jake asked. Lisa listened to more of the Queen's song. Her face grew more and more surprised. "This can't be right," Lisa said. "What?" "She's singing about you, sir, by name. She knows who you are. Jake stared at the Queen. That's impossible, but Lisa kept translating. She says she watched your diplomatic missions to other worlds. She heard your voice on the communication channels. She says she learned to love the sound of your voice. Jake felt like the ground was moving under his feet. Love? The Queen sang again, and this time Jake could hear something different in her voice. It was soft and warm, like the feeling of coming home. She's been in love with you for 2 years, Lisa said quietly. She fell in love with you before she ever met you. Jake looked at the Queen with new eyes. Suddenly everything made sense. The way she watched him. The way she sang to him. The way she protected him. The siege, Jake said. She wasn't trying to keep us prisoner. What was she doing? Amy asked. Jake walked closer to the Queen. She didn't back away. She was protecting us, he said, from her own people. He looked around at the other aliens. Some of them had harder, sharper crystal skin. They looked like soldiers. Some of your people don't like humans, Jake said to the Queen. The Queen sang a sad song, and Lisa translated. She says yes. Many of her people think humans are dangerous. When we pointed weapons at her, they wanted to declare war. But she stopped them, Jake said. Yes, she used the siege to protect you while she tried to make you understand. The sounds we thought were weapons were actually love songs. Jake felt his face get hot. Love songs? And lullabies, Lisa continued. She was trying to comfort you, to make you feel safe and loved. Jake thought about all the nights he had slept peacefully while the alien songs played outside. Now he knew why those songs had made him feel calm. She loves me, he said, not quite believing it. The Queen seemed to understand his words. She sang a short, sweet song that needed no translation. What about her people? Amy asked. The ones who want war? Lisa asked the Queen in her translated language. The answer was long and complex. She says they're still angry, Lisa said. They think you rejected her when you pointed weapons at her. In their culture, that's a terrible insult. How do we fix this? Jake asked. The Queen sang again and Lisa translated. She says there's a way. If you and she can show her people that humans and Zephyrians can understand each other, they might change their minds. How do we do that? The Queen walked to Jake and held out her crystal hand. When he took it, he felt warmth and energy flow between them. She began to sing again, but this time she looked into his eyes while she sang. Jake could feel her emotions in the music, and for the first time he understood what she was really saying. She was saying, I love you, in 1,000 different ways. Jake squeezed her hand and tried to sing back. His human voice was rough compared to her crystal music, but he tried to put the same feelings into his song that she had put into hers. The other aliens watched in amazement. Some of them began to sing too, joining their voices with the Queen's and Jake's. It's working, Lisa said with tears in her eyes. They're starting to understand. But Jake barely heard her. He was lost in the Queen's song, learning the language of love that needed no words. The next morning, Queen Lirelai came to the embassy with a plan. She brought only a few of her closest friends, aliens with gentle voices and kind crystal faces. She wants to take you to her palace, Lisa translated. She says it's time to face her people and tell them the truth. Jake looked at his team. They had been through so much together, and now he was asking them to trust aliens they had thought were enemies just days ago. Are you sure about this, sir? Amy asked. No, Jake said honestly, but I'm sure about her. The Queen smiled when Lisa translated his words. Jake was learning to read her crystal expressions, and he could see joy in her glowing eyes. They walked through the crystal city together. Jake's team stayed close to him, but they weren't afraid anymore. The Zephyrian people they passed seemed curious about the humans, not angry. The palace was beautiful beyond words. It was made of crystal that caught the light and threw rainbows everywhere. Inside, the walls sang soft music when the wind touched them. The palace itself is alive, the Queen explained through Lisa. It sings the history of our people. She led them to a great hall where hundreds of Zephyrians were waiting. These aliens looked different from the ones Jake had seen before. Their crystal skin was darker and sharper, and their songs had hard edges. The War Council, Lisa translated the Queen's words. They want to attack Earth. An alien with black crystal skin stepped forward. His voice was like breaking glass when he sang. He says humans are dangerous, Lisa said. He says you rejected the Queen and insulted all Zephyrians. He wants to send warships to Earth right away. More aliens joined the black-skinned one. Their songs became louder and angrier. Jake could feel the hatred in their music, but Queen Lyralee stepped between Jake and the angry aliens. She began to sing, and her voice cut through their noise like light through darkness. "She's telling them the real story," Lisa said. "She's explaining about the misunderstanding, about how she's been studying humans and learning to love them." The War Council sang back, their voices full of doubt and anger. "They don't believe her," Lisa said. "They think she's been fooled by human tricks." Jake knew he had to do something. He stepped forward and held up his hands for quiet. "Lisa, tell them I want to speak." The angry aliens stopped singing and stared at him. Jake had never felt so nervous in his life. "Tell them," Jake said, "that I didn't know the Queen loved me. Tell them that humans are not good at understanding other kinds of love. We're still learning," Lisa translated, and some of the aliens looked surprised. "Tell them," Jake continued, "that their queen is the most amazing person I've ever met. Tell them that any species that could create someone like her must be full of goodness and beauty." The queen's crystal skin glowed brighter when she heard the translation. She looked at Jake with such love that his heart almost stopped. "And tell them," Jake said, looking right at the queen, "that I love her too." The hall became completely quiet. Even the angry aliens stopped their harsh songs. Queen Lyralee walked to Jake and took his hands. She began to sing again, but this time her song was different. It was full of joy and hope and love so strong it made the air itself seem to glow. Jake listened to her song and tried to understand its melody. Then slowly he began to hum along. His human voice was rough and simple compared to her crystal music, but somehow they fit together. His deep humming supported her high, bright notes. Their voices became one song, one harmony. The effect on the watching aliens was incredible. The angry ones stopped looking angry. The doubting ones began to believe. Even the black-skinned war leader seemed to soften. Jake and the Queen sang together for a long time. They sang about two different worlds learning to understand each other. They sang about love that could cross the emptiness between stars. They sang about peace. When they finished, the great hall was completely quiet for a long moment. Then one alien began to clap. Then another. Soon the whole hall was full of the sound of crystal hands hitting together. The war leader stepped forward and sang a short song. He says, Lisa translated with amazement, that anyone who can sing with the Queen like that must have a good heart. He says maybe humans aren't so dangerous after all. Queen Lyralee hugged Jake, and he felt the warmth of her crystal skin against his face. Around them, Zephyrians and humans began to talk and sing together. "Sir," Amy said quietly, "I think we just saved two worlds." But Jake wasn't thinking about worlds or wars or politics. He was thinking about the alien queen in his arms and the impossible love they had found. 3 days later, the peace treaty was signed. Earth and the Zephyrian worlds would be friends and allies. Trade ships would travel between their stars, and explorers would learn about each other's homes. But Jake wasn't going back to Earth. "You're really staying here?" Ben asked him. They were at the spaceport saying goodbye. "Someone needs to be the ambassador," Jake said. "And besides, my home is here now." Lisa hugged him. "We'll miss you." "I'll miss you too. But this is where I belong." Amy shook his hand. "Take care of yourself, sir. And take care of her." Jake looked over at Queen Lyralee, who was saying goodbye to her own people. Some of them were going to Earth as ambassadors too. After his friends left, Jake and the Queen walked together through her crystal gardens. The plants here were made of living gem, and they sang soft songs when the wind touched them. "Are you happy?" the Queen asked. She had been learning to speak human words, just as Jake was learning to sing Zephyrian songs. "Yes," Jake said, "happier than I ever thought possible." She smiled, and her crystal face caught the light of the 3 moons above them. "I waited so long to meet you," she said. "I listened to your voice across the darkness between worlds and dreamed of this day." "I'm glad you waited," Jake said. "I'm glad you believed in love even when I didn't understand." They sat together on a bench made of singing crystal and looked up at the stars. Somewhere among those lights was Earth, Jake's old home. But this was his home now, here with the alien queen who had loved him before they ever met. "What should we do tomorrow?" the Queen asked. Jake took her crystal hand in his human one and felt the warmth that flowed between them. "Tomorrow," he said, "we'll keep learning each other's songs. We'll keep building bridges between worlds, and we'll keep proving that love really can cross any distance." The Queen began to hum a soft melody, and Jake hummed along. Their voices joined together in the crystal garden, creating new music that had never existed before. It was the sound of two hearts that had found each other across the vast darkness of space, and it was the most beautiful song in the universe.